Today on Retire Right, we are continuing a bit of a chat around superannuation. I'm joined by regular wildlife here on the show, Martin McGrath from Financial Edge Group and Nathan Fradley from Nathan Fradley Advice. And we're talking about superannuation. We're talking all the questions that everyone had. We're going to try and get through a heap. If not, we'll come back and do more whenever we get time. So let's start with a quick fire one before we get into it, just to wet everyone's whistles. Here's one. Sandy asks, is there any strategy to give children money from super to help buy a property? Nathan.
It's a great question.
And that's why we gave it to you.
Yeah, no, it's interesting because I love where the question's at, and it's asking the right things, but not in the right ways, right? And that's the thing. So I think the first thing to establish is, can we access our super? So if this question is coming in and you are under 60 and you haven't finished unemployment, or you are under 65 and you're still working, if you can't access your super, that's what I'm saying, then no. There's no splitting of your superannuation that they can use it for a house. That money is for your retirement. I think the alternative to that is if you can access your super, you want to make a gift to them, then there's two parts to that. The first part is you're giving them money, and there's a question of whether or not it is related to Centrelink or not. You can give as much money to your kids as you want.
Yeah, there's no limit on how much money you can give away in Australia. There's no gift tax. There is a deeming issue with Centrelink.
But yeah, there's no limit of the gift itself, just the implications of that gift.
Yeah.
There is a weird rule buried in granny flat stuff that means that there's a potential capital gains event when you give it, but I don't think we'll cover that today. But
no, we won't. Thanks, Daddy.
There's a couple like really weird things, but for most people, it's not going to come up.
Yeah, yeah. Martin, the thing I would probably say to Sandy is gift money to children to help buy property. Regardless, Sandy, if you own a house or you've got equity, you could be a parental guarantee on a property. Yeah. That won't impact you any Centrelink. It won't breach any gifting things with Centrelink. It leaves you super alone. Another way to do it, if you do have cash outside of super, given you might not because you asked about super, you can always pay their lender's mortgage insurance, or stamp duty is a bit of a thing. There's a million ways to do it, but brass tacks, whatever they say, back to the point. There really isn't any strategy other than getting access to super and effectively withdrawing it and giving them that money. My name is Glen James. You are listening to Retire Right. Let's get into it right now.
This is a podcast that will help you plan and execute one of the biggest moments in your life. That's retirement. You'll learn how to set up your finances in a way that benefits you, your lifestyle goals, and keeps you in the know within this complex world of money and investing. Your host is Glen James, former financial advisor, author, and host of the popular Money, Money, Money podcast. Glen is joined by experts in various fields around the topic of retirement in Australia. Any advice in this podcast is of a general nature. Full details are in the show notes of this episode. You only retire once, so retire right.
Well, we're back. We'll probably leave that in. But, we're in Perth, and
there's a lot of super questions, so we're still here.
Boys might be having a beer tonight.
Fucking granny flats.
Or do you want me to delete that?
Yeah, no, I'm fine with it.
Whatever. Yeah, we'll leave that in. A bit of
some of us on East Coast time, some on West Coast time.
It's so funny. We are in Perth for the Financial Advice Association of Australia conference, and it's the 17th of November. Nathan and I have just arrived in Perth. It's 5:30 p.m. Perth time. My body thinks I'm doing a podcast at 8:30 p.m. So this could get sloppy. Martin's been here with the family for a week.
Couple of weeks, yeah.
Yeah.
Family travelling.
Hence why you're keen to kick on for some bevies tonight. All right. Let's, what do you want to have a look at? Here we go. Kylie. If super moved from accumulation to pension when fully retired and you don't spend all the compulsory drawdown, can you put it back into the pension account, or does it have to go back into the accumulation and then move it to the pension account? What do we do with excess money building up?
Perfect. So Short answer is yes, you can. As long as you're under the age of 75, you can contribute to super as long as your super balance is below a certain threshold, $2 million most likely, and you've got space in your transfer balance cap. So let's say Kylie had 800,000 in pension phase and she was taking out 60 grand a year and she didn't spend it and she's 68. Can she put the extra 20 grand back in? Yes. But she can't put it straight into the pension fund. It's got to go in accumulation. Then the pension fund gets rolled back into accumulation and starts a new pension. Very fun and technical, boring process. Most super funds now can do that much more seamlessly. Depends how good their technology is. And that might be where some wrap accounts are a bit faster than industry super funds. But yes, it can go back in, but it might be a bit of paperwork.
But the important thing here is the money can go back into the super environment, and within the super environment, there's a thing called accumulation phase and pension phase within the super environment. And the individual pensions, you can't add money to a pension.
They're like a one-way street.
But you could start a new pension.
Yeah, and so think of your pension like you're moving house, you put stuff in the box and then you tape it up. Like it's taped up. The only way to add to it is to open it up. And when you do that, you ruin the box. So you might as well just start a new box, right? So it's probably not great on box costs, but you get the metaphor. That's the key to pensions. They can't be added to. They can only be closed and reopened. And I think it's a really good question for DIYs out there who are doing research into funds. And if you're approaching retirement, you're in retirement, and this is something you're going to want to do, ask the super fund whether they do what's called a one-form pension refresh. Because if they don't, what you have to do is you have to get
apply
a form,
for a new pension,
close the first one, move that back to a new super account. So you might have to open a new super account with some funds, move the pension back, put the money in, and then create a new pension. And a lot of the super funds, not all of them, will have the ability with one form. I want to create a new pension. Where's it coming from? It's coming from pension account A and contributions from my bank account here. And it's one form,
and they'll just suck it up and spit out a new pension.
Yeah, they still need to do all the steps, but they'll do it all internally on the same form and probably all within a few minutes versus it could take weeks or 3 or 4 different forms.
So what happens if
slow way.
That refresh is happening and you're halfway through the year and you haven't drawn down the full amount? Will they pro-rata it and go, you don't have to pull out an extra 10 grand out of that pension because it's pro-rata halfway through the year?
Yes, as long as you've taken your minimum.
Prorated minimum.
Exactly. If you set it up to only take it once a year and you decide to do this in December, they will make you take some before you close that first account.
Because there could be strategies where you set up the pension on the 1st of July, go, we'll just keep it invested and we'll draw the minimum on 30 June next year.
Yeah. So, but otherwise, yes, if you need to take 100,000 over the whole 12 months, you've only taken 50. You don't have to take an extra 100,000 the second. You just take the extra 50.
And I think the turnaround time on this is important. When you come back to why are you picking a super fund and what's important to you about it in that moment. If you're doing this once a year and you've got a low cost group or industry fund that can do it for you with one form, awesome. Let's go. If you're selling down investment properties, downsizing, staging down in share sales and doing all this kind of stuff.
Yeah, and it's the start of June.
you probably want something like a wrap account or something that does it in 48 hours, not 4 weeks.
Yeah,
and so that's sort of a consideration there.
Yeah, and or if you need your pension every fortnight, you might miss it a couple of fortnights because this takes a while to happen. So there's reasons, but also can it be done? Yes, it is a bit painful potentially. I'm not doing it for $100 or 500 or 1,000, probably not even $5,000. Just save it up, and then maybe every 2 or 3 years. There actually some funds do have a minimum to start new pensions of 10 or 20, but I think we're doing this with tens of thousands. We're probably not doing it with much less than that.
Yeah, and I mean the only other thing to check with your super fund, if they don't have the refresh, and it takes 8 years for them to do the new pension and all that, and you're going to miss payment, maybe they'll let you have a second fund and just start a second pension. I don't know.
And you can, with not all of them, again, you got to check, but you could have different pensions. If you've got a spouse who's passed away and they had a reversionary benefit, which means their pension moves into your name when they pass away, you probably have two pensions and they can't be merged together. So yeah, you might be easy to do it that
so
way.
And there could be the whole components.
Yes.
Separating, isolating your taxable and your tax-free components.
There was a question not directly about.
Coming to that, so thank you for
Yeah,
reading my brain.
I jumped ahead on the train tracks.
I was going to ask that. Well, I'll double click on the reversionary thing. So one of the super beneficiaries 101. No beneficiary, you fall off the perch. The trustee will use their discretion of where the money's to go, whether it's to your estate, to your estranged brother that you haven't seen for 30 years. I can tell you a story later over drinks. Not my brother, but stuff can go wrong. You could have a beneficiary non-binding where it's like, hey, super fund, I'm pretty sure put my spouse down. It's non-binding. That's
what
my
I'm thinking.
intention.
My
It's my
intention,
intent. But your ex comes out of this woodwork and grabs 50% of that. You've got the binding, which needs a witness. Generally, some of these funds are doing this now without wet signatures. Some will need the beneficiary signed by two witnesses who are present, wet signature.
And some need two witnesses who are present and the name of your firstborn child and a bunch of other things
Yes.
that make it so hard. Yeah.
That's right. So when you fall off the perch, all day long, they will go, we're not even asking questions. We're paying this super benefit to Nathan because the member here had a binding beneficiary. Some of them are lapsing, some are non-lapsing, all that. The thing around the non-lapsing, it's set and forget. A lot of some trustees goes, no, it needs to be refreshed every 3 years just to things change. But when it comes to pension land, there's a thing called a reversionary pension. So Nathan, we're married. I've got a pension that's getting paid to our bank account. I've got you as my reversionary beneficiary for my pension. I've got 500K. Minimum comes out, call a couple of grand a week or whatever that is. I die. That pension, my question is it still in my spouse's name and I'm just the beneficiary, or does it move to my name so I actually own the pension? Then I can wind it back to my own super. Like, where does that work? Is it almost like, I don't know, just work through the practicalities for people?
If everyone watched the Granny Flat episode we did recently, the case study, the people that's based off, we did this recently. Unfortunately, one of them passed away.
Oh, really?
So we've done the paperwork on this very recently.
Right.
Yeah. So effectively,
So does the 500 grand reversionary pension, does it move into your super environment, how I talked before, how the super environment is accumulation or pension, or does it sit outside your super environment but still in this weird super land?
yeah. So when you notify, the first thing you do is you notify the fund, because the fund, what they don't want to do is stop you receiving money if you need that to live. And most of them are pretty good at this, and they will very quickly, surprisingly quickly, get you out a pack that's like, this is what you need. This is what you need to do. We need certified copies of death certificates and yada yada yada. And one of those forms is how would you like to receive it? And so you can, firstly, what they will do is they will move it into your name. So it's not the estate of, it'll go into your name. And it comes across, and then from there you can then opt to withdraw it altogether, or pay a pension, or some of the time they actually let you do a partial, because you can basically do a lump sum, what we call commutational withdrawal from the account as well.
But if
It stays with that product, it stays with the same member number. It's just the same investments that you're basically, they get a bit of tape and write your
investment
name.
allocation?
Yes. If the product would otherwise allow you to do that, yes.
Yes. But if you are, say, younger, for example, and I died and there's a reversionary pension to you, at age 67, if you rock up at Centrelink and say, I want to apply for the age pension, and they say, all right, Nathan, what are your assets? You would put, well, I've got my own 500 in super there. Would you then put reversionary pension 500?
Yeah.
But it's technically not super. It's just, does it sit in the same line item like it's a ETF portfolio, or they only look at the income because it is a pension?
It goes into the income streams and annuities component of the Centrelink, and it would be assumedly deemed like any other money. So it works exactly the same.
Yeah.
It's
So it doesn't
effectively-
end up within Nathan's superannuation land.
No,
so
it's not like it
can't roll,
exists in its own little ball pocket universe.
Yeah.
It becomes your asset.
but not a super asset of yours.
That's it's still an income stream, account-based pension. But Nathan's just got two pensions. He's got his own pension and his reversionary
yeah.
pension.
So in theory,
he can't merge them into $1 million pot.
no,
He's
but
got
can
two
he
separate
roll
funds.
my reversionary pension that he's received back into his accumulation?
No, he has to take it out.
We draw out it to cash.
Yes.
person.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm getting to.
Yeah.
It stays, but then you can put the cash into your super fund all day long if you can get it in.
And that's the conversation you have. Hey, do you want to leave it open? What other contributions are we making? Do we need the caps? Do we just wind it up and consolidate it into one? I've had circumstances where we've had multiple accounts, and because we were, reorganizing the financial situation, downsizing, moving house.
What if it's a pension pre-2012?
These are the complications, right? Because and for those that don't know, that means, and then pre-2015 as well, depending, that means that there's different ways that Centrelink assess the rates. So it does have material impacts. You've got to assess it on a case by case, and also like if it's doing what it needs to do, it
get on
can
with
just
your
stay
life.
there and keep doing that. Yeah, and you keep uninterrupted payments.
I'll jump in and add as well. The other fun bit is that it is a pension asset, so it can affect your transfer balance cap. So that is how much money you can have in pension phase.
But it's so weird because you can't roll it back to your accumulation.
No,
so it
but you-
kind of half. This is why it's fun to talk about, because it's half in Superworld on your name, but also completely not.
So where it might be is couple, $1.5 million each in pension phase. So both under the transfer balance cap, both very comfortable, both fine, but one of them passes away. I now have $3 million in pension phase.
I'm so glad you
know.
asked that because I was going to. You jumped in
Yeah, and I
get on
guess
me, yeah.
because
I'm not allowed to have $3 million in pension
Yeah.
phase.
Yeah.
So, but as we both discussed,
Well, you can,
But
but they
it's
just
after
tax
the-
you.
well, I'm excess of yeah.
No, but it's after the balance transfer cap because it's already in.
But it doesn't matter. It's a new pension for Nathan in this case.
Right. So they could, in theory, say that new pension for Nathan, it's not 0% tax anymore. It's 15%, even though it is a pension.
And there's some fun complications here if we have a substantial age gap.
Yes.
So let's say,
How old are you anyway?
I got to think about this, 36.
Okay. How old are you, Martin?
39. We're good at pattern here. We're all very young.
See, I thought you guys are older than me.
Maybe more mature.
I would have got when I had the long hair. Yeah, I think I've gained some youth chopping my hair off.
Sorry.
So account-based pension. So after 12 months, it goes on your transfer balance cap record. So, hey, you've got excess. You've got too much in pension phase. What are you going to do about it? And as we've discussed, you may not want to be able to commute your reversionary pension, but you can make changes to your own pension. So in that case, what I might do is I might take the $1 million out of my pension. I've got my reversionary 1.5 and my own pension of 500. I might revert $1 million back to accumulation. It's a better accumulation in my own name, but there's definitely some
Or just throw it
planning
into an
there.
investment bond.
Would depend. Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
There's strategy stuff
There's a
there.
lot you can. There's all sorts of stuff.
I
depending
mean,
on
good problem
incomes.
to have when you got lots of money, right?
Yeah, but I think this also brings in like this concept of like collaborative and family estate planning. That depending on your circumstances, it might make sense to just pay it to the estate and distribute it to and get rid of that reversionary beneficiary because of the like it's not always the best option. And if this person doesn't need the money, maybe there's other family members do.
Yeah,
like
but-
there's so much within.
I mean,
this.
a lot of my, clients a million years ago, for most people, most of the time, if you're setting up a pension, you'd put a reversionary on it and get on with your life.
I think when I was reading the questions earlier, I was like, you just do the reversionary. Like for most cases, it's a great option.
I can't remember what the question was to start with, but yes, reversionary is ideal, but it does have some planning implications around it. I suppose that's what we're alluding to. And you might want to cash it in because it might save lots of tax. But what you wouldn't just rush to that, because if all of a sudden you've cashed in $1 million pension, you go, well, what do I do with this money? I want to invest the rest of my life. Oh, can I recontribute that? Well, maybe you can't, or maybe you can only recontribute $360,000. and you've moved the rest of it into a taxable environment, you can't get it back into super.
Yeah, there's something I want to pick up on here. This is the most read blog on my website, and it's about how you
You got that little plug in there,
Right.
didn't you?
Well,
We'll put his blog in the show notes.
there you go.
you go.
And I'm pretty sure it's just the lawyers that
You
are looking
just
it
have
up.
to ask, Nathan.
Yeah.
You just have to
It would
ask.
stay number one blog.
Yeah, it's nathanfradley.com. So what's really interesting about this is the question of Centrelink comes up with this too. So we had $500,000 each. We're just under the assets test rules, and husband's passed away. Now I have $1 million, but I'm being assessed as a single, not a couple now. So I've lost my pension.
Oh, I did see that question.
Yeah, and this is like, well, can't I just give it? Yeah, and this might also be
Give it to the kids.
It might be other inheritance, not just super. But can't I just give it to the kids? No, you can't. You might be actually. So
No,
you
the best way-
but Centrelink don't care. They still see it as your money.
gift
So
it.
this is this like think about that.
But that's the whole estate planning.
Yeah.
It's like if you want to give money to your kids, one, do it before you apply for the pension if you're in Centrelink zone and if you do want to maximise it and not get deemed with gifts. Two, do it when you die. Like, what are the other ways around it?
But do it directly when you die.
Yes, that's right.
yeah.
Not, okay, I'll give it to my partner and then they can gift it.
Yeah, because we
that's
didn't we
gonna
do a
stuff up
case
the
study,
Centrelink.
or maybe the other show, we had somebody who inherited, I think it was the main Money podcast. The dad, sadly, the girl's mum passed away, and the dad was like, look, I don't need mum's money. And there was like $800,000. And so what do I do with this $800,000 I've received from mum when mum died? No, the facts are your dad's gifting you $800,000.
We see it with like Nana passes away and the house of suddenly it's like the house appears in our assets. We were on pension. Now we've got this house. We've lost our pension. And how can I actually pay my bills with this Nan's old property?
Yeah.
Those kinds of questions that come up. And then the other, I think, thing to think about is the super fund, you can't challenge a beneficiary nomination. So you can alter a will, Centrelink don't care, but you can alter it and redirect it and do family agreements. But if
Well, you can't challenge a binding nomination.
you can't challenge a binding nomination, correct? Yeah. So if that is being pointed to someone and it's a reversionary, they are binding. That's where it's going.
Yeah.
There's no. Can you just redirect that for me?
Joanne actually said, what I was alluding to before, a good topic is explaining the importance of knowing the differences between a binding, non-binding, and reversionary. As far as I'm concerned, there's either binding or nothing. And in the nothing is literally a non-binding or nothing. Because a binding, it's a cute thing, and maybe you did it and you didn't know and your affairs were simple and it all worked out. But I don't think we leave things to chance in this world. We'll take a break and we'll continue the discussion right after I lift the blinds in this room, let a little bit more light in here if you are watching us on YouTube. We're at the Western in Perth. We'll be back right after this.
If you're after personal financial advice, don't get it from a podcast. If you would like help based on your own personal situation, head over to retireright.com.au, click Get Help, and we'd be happy to introduce you to one of our trusted professionals. Our panel of vetted financial advisors and mortgage brokers work with people all over Australia, so they can connect with you wherever you are. That's retireright.com.au and click Get Help.
Okay, we're back. The blinds are up. Just while the blinds were going up, we were chatting about maybe we'll just get around to fact check something. What are we fact checking?
Excess money in pension phase.
Right.
So transfer balance cap is a relatively new concept, maybe in the last 10 years, let's say that. And that is how much money you can move from accumulation phase into pension phase. The limit as it stands at the moment, if you haven't started, is $2 million per person. And that's moving it across into pension phase. And so that's every new pension you start counts towards that limit. Now, for most people, you retire and you move across 430 grand, you're fine. But for people who are close to that limit, they might have some planning issues. And as kind of the case study we said before the break, 1.5 million each, they're well below 2 million. But all of a sudden you add that together as a couple and you're going to be above that threshold.
So I mean, destroy us in the comments if we're wrong.
Well, what we wanted to check was, were you like, does the money get forced out, or can you leave it in the pension and be taxed?
Yeah, the
That's
course
what
of
we
action
check.
I
I mean,
would
but
take
that would go
is-
back to whether the product provider has the mechanisms within a reversionary.
So the ATO,
Potentially.
so the product provider reports the ATO
Yeah.
and says Nathan now has a new pension. He's got two pensions, 1.5. The ATO goes, 1.5 plus 1.5, we'll get a calculator. Oh, that's too much. And then a letter gets sent to Nathan as an individual to say, you have an excess transfer balance cap about $1 million.
So the pension account notifies the ATO.
Yeah.
I thought they only did that on the way in, or is it an annual thing?
Well, they're on the way in, but if you've got a reversion, that's a
transfers
new
across.
yeah, but would that trigger it on Nathan's tax
on the
portal?
reversion. Yeah.
It would?
Yeah,
12
it's a
months.
new pension.
Yeah.
So the pension Nathan set up 4 years ago, 1.5. The new reversionary he got tomorrow, that's a new 1.5. That'll be a new event that hits his account.
Well, good problem to research. But yeah, comment in the comments if you know exactly.
The best course of action is, and what we're saying is worst case, 47% tax. So the best course of action that I've ever taken for the clients that we've had this with is we either withdraw to cash to take it out of super environment and gift it or put in investment bond, or we revert back to accumulation.
Yeah.
You end
And
up with
15%.
Yeah, 2 million in pension phase at 0, another $1 million in accumulation, 15%, and then you access that money whenever you
Kind
need
of
to.
optimize if you've got no other assets in your own
Any
name.
of those options are better than paying a higher amount of tax.
So someone sent me a message, and this speaks to a question that Sarah had. Pros and cons of lump sum withdrawal at retirement to pay out the mortgage. Look, we have covered this before, and I think it does go back to that. Do you want that feeling of mortgage cleared, no one can take from me, security and all that? Or do you I want to save as much on tax and I'll do the mortgage later? This person is 61. They've got 650 in super. Of the 650 in super, there's 190 in a TTR, so maybe a
460 in accumulation.
yeah,
or
yeah.
it must be, yeah.
And they've got a mortgage of 400K left on the mortgage. And like, oh, what do I do? I'm like, well, I can't give you advice. You need to get some advice. But then I was thinking, 61 years old, with that scenario, you're earning decent money and retirement is only 4 years away, or to be able to access super is only 4 years away if you are still working. Because remember, everyone, at age 65, whether you're working or not, you can take all your money down to the casino. It's all G. I was thinking, do you just contact the bank or the broker and say, put this mortgage on interest only and just absolutely pump super for the next 4 years? You'll save on tax all day long with your income tax. And then at 65, then pay off the mortgage. But I guess it's the psychology of, I've got a 400K mortgage that's staying at 400 for the next 4 years. Like, what do you guys have a view on this? Because this question does speak to the one
I've got
that
thoughts.
Sarah said.
I'll let Nath go. Yeah, an assumption, can we assume a salary? What are we assuming salary?
Yeah, I think
100?
the salary's probably 120, 120 for 4 days.
Okay.
Plus 5K in on-call. So I think they're a registered nurse or such.
Bad amount of retirement. I mean, I'm going to come back to those points you talked about then. Is there an opportunity that you could, go interest only? You might pay a higher rate on the loan, so we've got to factor that in because sometimes interest only is more expensive. But there is something to say about that decreasing balance and that certainty versus that money in super, where if the crash happened the day she retires, she can't clear a mortgage, and then she can't retire. I think there's a lot in that can sit in the back of people's minds, that my ability to retire is, I'm going to end up with, what's she going to have, like 200 and something thousand in super and own her house outright. That's a pretty stressful outcome, and knowing that mortgage is going to be paid. And the alternative is that she just moves that portion of the mortgage to cash in a super fund, but now she's paying 5.5% out here and only getting 3% inside. So, and she could still potentially, depending on cash flow, do the contribution piece anyway with that drawdown. I mean, whether she needed to and all the rest of it. Yeah.
So at age 61, would you, and this is the annoying thing about personal finance and advice, it all goes back to, I'm dying on this hill, I'll pay an extra $6,000 a year in tax. I just want my mortgage done sooner, whatever the number is. But like, as an advisor, would you crunch the numbers and give two strategies? Oh, yeah. It's like, okay, we'll move all of your 650 into a TTR because you're 61, take 65K out, 10%, be a little tax dickery going on because we still have to pay some tax on that, but it's offset.
No, 65, over the age of 60, tax-free now.
No, sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm confused. But the growth is 15% still.
Yes, the same as accumulation.
Yeah. This is why I get the pros on.
Yeah.
So we pump the next 4 years, 65K, pretty much mortgage will be gone. Like, it's flip a coin, but do we just model out both strategies and then let the data on paper say conservatively, if you do the TTR and refresh it each year or not?
Yeah.
This is what it looks like? Yeah.
I think there's multiple, but there's three parts. All mortgage, no super. So you do the TTR, you don't put $1 extra into super, and you just knock the mortgage off. It probably is gone in 4 years. The other way is, what you're flagging in is, well, all super, no mortgage. So go to interest only, don't do a TTR, go accumulation, go hard inside a super. I think it's a personal preference, as Nate said, but probably the middle ground. I would go do the TTR, take 65 grand out, put 15 or 17 or whatever is back into super as your personal concessional to get you up to 30. You're still going to be left with 40. Put that 40 towards a mortgage, plus that tax refund you're getting on 15, that can go off the mortgage as well. And you got that best of both worlds. You're probably not paying it off by 65.
Is it worth putting the mortgage on interest only or just letting it? I mean, you're going to have to do a full application to do interest only.
If you're putting as much cash flow on it as you can anyway,
yeah.
Does it make a difference? And are you on a higher rate? That's the other thing. I think, but to your point, like in this advice process, this is what I call the rational basis for the emotional decision. If in all the advice I give, I say like, if we lent on this option, lent on that option, that or not, no optimizing, just if we went to your point,
what's your
all
comfort
in on
levels
this,
on?
all in on that, going through that, learning it, that enables you to make an informed decision because only you can answer the emotional part. Right?
I was actually talking to someone just on the weekend about employee share schemes and all that. And I'm going to do a deep dive episode on the Money, Money, Money podcast. It's a really good case study. He's like, oh, what should I do? Because it was a friend of mine. And I'm like, well, we kind of keep going on a green light and we stop on a red and maybe pause on an amber. And I said, because he was going to, the company's offering, they've got a relationship with Macquarie and they'll fund it or whatnot. I'm like, you don't have to decide now. Run the flag up the pole, see if you can get the money from Macquarie, see what the rate is. Then we can actually have a chat because we've got more actual information on the table. A lot of us, we get flustered and analysis paralysis without all the data. So it would be worth paying an advisor to go model out 3 scenarios. Do nothing, go to town on South Sac without the TTR, or do the full TTR and get this cashed out in the next 4 years.
And they're all going to work either way. All those scenarios at 65 in a few months, you're going to be debt free and your super's going to be down to 200. There's probably 10 or 20 grand, maybe 30 grand difference between the scenarios. I would then go the next step and go, well, what does life look like at 67 or 70? Are you going to stay in this home and is your age pension at 200 grand would be enough to live off? Or we downsize, if we're going to downsize anyway at 66, are we going all this hard work for nothing?
Well, and I think this person, I think they're a young, like young 60, like active and all that. And I think that's the thing, Nath, when you said, do people ever call you Nath? Anyway, if the market tanks the moment that you retire, at least knowing what my worst case scenario is in 3 years or in 4 years, hey, if it's really bad time, sure, the mortgage might be reduced a little bit. I'll just have to work 3 days a week and stagger the retirement a little bit longer.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think we need to, and again, everyone's going to be different. If you're in a heavily manual occupation, your body's cooked, you can't do it, you might be like, 65, I'm out of here, baby. But if you're in a knowledge-based work or you don't hate life and hate your job, 65 just could be a flashpoint to have a decision and have a chat.
It could also be a decision made for you.
Yeah.
You know, for a lot of occupations, when you turn 65, it's time to finish up. You know, and that can be another challenge. But if it's something like nursing, she may very well move hospitals between now and then, or you know, and if she finishes an employment,
Yes.
now we've got a scenario where, and that's something I would flag in these examples. Now we've got a scenario where that pension can become a proper tax-free account-based.
Yeah,
pension.
okay. So if this individual is working 4 days a week with the private hospital, okay, registered nurse, 61, she could quit tomorrow. That ticks the box of change in employment,
Finishing an employment. Yep.
finish an employment, withdraw $400,000 from her super. Now, would you do a straight up withdrawal from the accumulation or flush it through a pension?
A lump sum from accumulation. I
Yep.
think.
Then go, oh, don't like this retirement lifestyle. I'm going to go back to work and get another job.
She doesn't have to have retired.
Just a change in
Over
situation.
I've got a real life example of a nurse works 3 or 4 days a week at a public hospital and 2 days a month at a private hospital working for a surgeon, and that surgeon retired.
Finish an
So at
employment.
62, she stopped doing those 2 days a month. She's still doing the other day. In fact, I think she probably picked up an extra day at the public hospital now.
Could this individual next state election go and do a day at the booth, get paid?
There's a reason why
can.
everyone who you see at the AEC or whichever, you know, is of a similar age.
I'll stop my comment.
But I think, and the plug, this is where either the strategy, the components or the buckets within your super fund, if you're going to take out 400 grand out of 600 or 650, you're talking about a high percentage. You may not want that all-in growth asset. So making sure you've isolating or quarantining those funds, if this is going to be a strategy, potentially is also key. So a few different ways to carve it up, but I do think that medium to longer term planning also is important. What does retirement look like? I think 100% owning a house debt-free is key for retirement. It's one of the key pillars, but making sure that you still got a super balance that you get to enjoy the retirement you deserve.
I think the real question in this scenario is she's got 200 grand and she's 65. Like there's no age pension. She owns a house. It's fantastic.
Yeah, how are we getting to age
How are we getting
67?
But even at 67, is she getting 29 grand?
Yeah, plus a bit of age pension. It's
But is there another universe? And I guess this is where it goes to financial goals. Like there might be another universe where you just pay off the mortgage at age 75.
That's the conversation. What if you did keep working? What if you that's the
But even
bigger
like
piece, right?
this mortgage, you could potentially get it. Not that I don't love the idea of having a mortgage forever and paying more interest, but I just love the arithmetic internally. If interest rates are pretty decent at the moment, you could have a really good lifestyle with a very low mortgage. Could you go and, like if you went to a broker, you could re-amortize that mortgage, do a 30-year term, reset the loan.
You mean they'll give you a 30-year term?
No, well, you would. They'll just have to show exit strategy, which is with the super.
Yeah.
I mean, again, loud and clear, this individual wants to clear their mortgage, but if you want a bit of a razzle-dazzle in life and a bit more income, maybe you can have a bit of everything, but it goes back to the goal is to clear the mortgage. Well, we just focus on that. I don't know. I mean, yeah.
Fun thought experiment. There could be so many external factors,
and there's no
around,
right answers. Yeah,
other family members that could be involved, and you know, what are they doing? Maybe she wants to stay in this house for a number of years, still maintain a decent standard of living, and downsize at a much later age, and it makes sense. to
Yeah,
get that
actually,
mortgage
Daniel said, if I'm an IT contractor for company Y, working via contracting agency X, can I quit that contracting agency at 60, retire for a few weeks, set up a pension account, etc., and 2 weeks later go with a new contracting agency, but same company Y?
Yeah, I think I understand the question. The answer is no. It's who your employer. So if you're if Glen James is billing through Glen James Holding and you're billing out to 3 different people, and you stop contract, but you're still Glen is employed by Glen James Holdings.
Yeah,
that's your employer, not the contractor or the consultant.
Yeah, I'm glad the accountant answered that one.
Yes, there you go. So, but
unless you're a sole trader. Oh no,
your
it's the
ABN
same.
still your employer.
Same.
So
I'm not, the only way I could think about it is sometimes these contracts are a fixed contract and you're an employee.
Yeah, and it could be if you're direct and they're paying you as a PAYG.
Yes, but it's a contract term.
And or if you were a sole trader on ABN, you shut down your ABN and then you set up Glen James Holdings, then your employer's changed to the company now.
Yeah.
That also may be the case. And some contractors will let you do that and some won't. So, but it might be getting a second job for a short period of time and quitting that job might also be another way to achieve a similar result.
Binding nomination, if you leave it to a spouse and you both pass at the same time, does it get dealt with as per your will? So basically, yes. If Nathan and I are married again, we've both got 500k in super, we've both got binding nominations to each other. Effectively, if we both die in a car crash tomorrow, my 500k super is bound to you, goes to your estate, but you're dead, it would go to my estate. Like it's a moot point.
Depends on the rules in the estate. In the state
and usually
itself. It's like
mirrored
youngest
wills
person
would be the same.
Yeah. It might be youngest person is deemed to die second kind of thing.
Yeah. So that's
There was another good question in there, which was if I'm selling and have say 300,000, is there a difference between using a downsizer and a non-concessional?
Oh yes, I did see that.
Well,
Kevin, what's the difference, if any, between making a downsized contribution 300k or a non-concessional contribution using the bring forward option of 360 following the sale of your home?
It depends what you're at.
And this is just for my training. The only difference is if you're over 75 or your super balance, you'd use the downsizer. Like it's just an entry.
I mean, does the money end up in the same pot? Yes. Is there any difference in the tax outcomes? No. That they both go in tax-free into the money pot. But if you can use the downsize, you prioritise the downsizer. Reason being is that it's much harder to qualify for a downsizer than it is a non-concessional. If you use the non-concessional limit and go, I'll put 300 as a non-concessional, and then 6 months later you want to do some more, you can't go, I'll do my downsizer now. Downsizers have to be done within 90 days. Versus if you do the downsizer and then 6 months later you want to do more, your non-concessional limit is on top of that. So you can do a $300,000 downsizer and still be eligible to do more non-concessional.
More times than not, if a couple sell a property, and it's in Australia, so everything's $1 billion of property, a lot of the times you might use both for both spouses and get almost $1 million into the super environment.
And I think the other thing about what's the other advantage is people love recontribution strategies around retirement. They love to, rebalance their taxable and tax-free components to reduce potential future estate tax on their kids if they're going to be beneficiaries. So that can be an opportunity to do that, where you use the I think it's a good rule of thumb that you've highlighted. Use the downsizer because it's harder to use or harder to qualify for. Yeah. And then that gives you the flexibility to do other things within the situation where you may want to get that money in super later. You're not triggering that bring forward now.
And for the DIYers out there, you've just got to be so careful. I remember the guy who wrote in, I think in the group last year or the start of the year.
No, I remember that. Yeah.
It's like, I put the downsizer in, I ticked the wrong box, and it wasn't downsizer, it was the sale of an investment property. Or anyway, it was something like that. But you just can't unpluck
the fund wouldn't
the
change
chicken. The fund doesn't care if you made a mistake on the paperwork, realistically. So good luck.
Yeah, the only thing trying to think of examples, there are lots of times when you can do a downsize, you can't do a non-concessional, like as you said, Glenn, over the age of 75. I suppose if you are under the age of 55, you can't do a downsizer.
But you also can't use the bring forward if you've got over 500K.
No, you can do a bring forward.
What's the one you can't? The carry forward.
Carry forward.
Yep.
Lots of forwards.
They just
bringing
really
in- there's bringing and
this
carrying.
is the problem with doing legislation years apart. Like if they roll out both of those things at once, I'm sure they would have used different names.
Yeah, so carry forwards is when you're doing extra concessionals, and yes, you can't do that if you're above 500,000. But the bring forward, which is extra non-concessionals, you can do that above 500. You just can't do it above 1.76 million or something like that, because it puts you above the 2 mil.
But I also brought that up strategically. Wink, not really. There are cases where you might use a bit of everything.
Yep, concessionals,
And
downsizers,
you'd
bring
probably,
forwards.
if you're still working and doing a downsizer, I would imagine you'd want to probably use the unused cap before you even entertain downsizer, before you entertain bring forward.
There's definitely strategies and something that we look a lot at, and I think there's a podcast that would have gone out by now around property and selling properties in retirement. Those limits are super key for that, because you might sell an investment property, but you've got some carry forwards to use. But if you put the non-concessional in first, it puts you above 500,000. You then can't use them. So there's definitely, once we're in this territory, there's an order and a sequence.
Yeah,
to
and
make
I
sure
think
you're doing
on the
things in the right
timing
order.
thing, if there is maybe an inheritance that might walk in the door, you've got a downsizer, you might have to use that downsizer first, because that's your 3-month window after the settlement of the property.
Yep. Yeah, there's time issues there, and if we want to keep on this downsizer fun, you don't have to financially downsize, and you don't have to use the money from the downsize. It's a bit like ceasing a position of employment. I might sell my $1 million house and downsize, but I might move into my inherited property that's actually worth $3 million, but I can still go and do a downsizer contribution. Or I can go and sell some shares, and that actually funds my downsizer. There's no proof that the downsizer comes from the money from the sale of the house.
Well,
It's got to
you
do with
could
the timing.
literally sell $1 million house, buy a new house for $2 million, and still
do
put 600
as a couple.
into super.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So look,
Lots of ways to carve it up.
good luck out there, kids. It's rough. We've covered a lot of ground. Nathan, in finishing, and we'll put a link to your website in the show notes with that blog that you keep crapping on about.
I'll go read it now as well.
Yeah, you only crapped on about it once. Any kind of final comments? We've covered a lot of ground on any things for people to look out for, or anything to do with their super.
I think at the end of the day, the simpler the better is the approach I take with a lot of super stuff. Like, if you can do it less complicated, if you can do it and get it done and it meets what you need to do with less risk, and then why wouldn't you? And in line with that, if you're in a couple, just because if you're listening to this and you're really into this and you enjoy this and your partner doesn't, we talked a lot about estate planning today. Don't leave them with a really complicated situation. I mean, we see a lot of this sort of SMSF work that comes in later in life, and part of the winding down into I suppose simplifying situations in preparation for aged care and all the rest of it is to unwind some of these structures, simplify things, make it easier. So that's probably my last thoughts on that.
I think just superannuation structure in Australia is the most attractive around the world. So when you're retiring, where do you want the bulk of your assets is? You want them inside of superannuation. How to get them in there? There's lots of different ways. And good news, there's lots of podcasts to go and listen to learn all about them. But don't be scared off. Get excited by them and figure out, okay, how do I get this money in? How do I get most efficiently in? Don't be scared off some of the things we've discussed today, because that's playing in the weeds and getting some complicated things. But like Nathan said, keep it simple, but lean into it, because there's a lot of value in this that's going to save you a lot of money, save your family a lot of money, settling benefits, tax planning benefits, to make sure you get it right.
Yeah, love it. Hey, if you found this episode useful, can you forward it to a friend or family member? Give us a subscribe or like on YouTube. Give us a star rating on Apple or Spotify. If you want to email us, go to retireright.com.au. any topic suggestions, any feedback, good or bad. If you need advice, retireit.com.au, click get help. I'll send you to an advisor who I think can help you. But other than that, we'll leave it there. I might even try and get these cats back another episode this week while we're in Perth and finish off these super questions. What do you guys reckon?
You will see.
We'll see what happens, but we'll just make sure. Well, what's the time now? It's 6:30 p.m. Nathan and I are on 9:30 time.
I'm telling you. Yep.
But it's weird. Like, we're going to go out for dinner now. It's like your biological food clock also thinks it's bedtime.
How many breakfasts did I have today?
Yeah, I think we counted 3 you'd had,
Yeah.
Different times.
But he's also a pig.
Yeah.
My name's Glen James, joined by Nathan Fradley and Martin McGrath. You only retire once, so make sure you retire right.
Any advice is general financial advice only, which does not take into account your objectives, financial situation, or needs. Because of that, you should consider if the advice is appropriate to you and your needs before acting on the information. If you do choose to buy a financial product, read the Product Disclosure Statement, PDS, and Target Market Determination, TMD, and obtain appropriate financial advice tailored to your needs. Simo Interactive, Pty Ltd, and Glen James are authorised representatives of Money Sherpa, Pty Ltd, which holds Financial Services Licence 451289. Martin McGrath, Financial Edge Group, and its employed financial advisors are authorised representatives of Synchron Advice, AFSL 243313. Opinions or comments from any guest on the podcast are theirs, and not those of the hosts, the publisher, or their respective licence holders.